I'm absolutely buzzing to share an incredible adventure with you today. My trip to Coorg or Kodagu, this jaw-dropping hill station tucked away in the Western Ghats, right where Kerala and Karnataka meet. I first visited a few months ago, and let me tell you, it was a total game changer. Coorg isn't just about misty hills and coffee plantations. It's home to a fascinating community called the Kodavas, or Coorgis, with a history that'll blow your mind. After that first trip, I knew I had to go back, so I spent 4 or 5 days diving deep into the region and its people. I even hunted for books on Coorg's history, but there's barely anything out there. Everyone knows Coorg as a tourist paradise, but the Kodava story, it's like a hidden treasure we need to uncover. So, grab a coffee, maybe some Coorg coffee, and let's dive into this epic tale. Picture this, a small but mighty community, the Kodavas, with just 1 to 1.5 lakh people, 100,000 to 150,000, give or take. About 1 to 1.25 lakh live in Coorg, while the rest are spread across India and even abroad. Their history is a bit like a mystery novel because hard evidence is tough to come by. I chatted with locals and did some digging to piece it together. One wild theory says their ancestors might go back to Alexander the Great's time, around 325 BCE. Some believe Greek soldiers settled in Persia, modern-day Iran, and their descendants eventually made their way to Coorg. Crazy, right? But there's another angle. DNA studies suggest the Kodavas are Dravidian, like many South Indian communities. Here's the kicker, though. They don't follow typical Hindu traditions or worship mainstream gods. Instead, they're all about nature, mountains, forests, and the sacred Kaveri River at Talakaveri. You've probably heard of the Kaveri Sangamam, that spiritual hotspot. It's huge for them. Now, with just 1.5 lakh people, you'd think they'd have grand temples or big rituals, but nope. Their worship is super simple, tied to the land. They do have one Hindu-like tradition, though, Ayudha Puja, where they honor weapons. And this is where it gets wild. Kodavas are one of only 3 communities in India who were historically allowed to carry weapons without restrictions. The British gave them this privilege, and the Indian government kept it going. The other 2, Sikhs with their kirpans and Gurkhas with their kukris. For Kodavas, this means rifles, guns, you name it, sitting in their homes without needing a license. No cap on ammo either. Walk into a Kodava household and you'll probably spot a rifle in the corner, a proud nod to their warrior roots. Speaking of warriors, the Kodavas are straight-up legends in battle. These folks are tall, strong, and built like tanks, perfect for their martial legacy. Their biggest flex? Taking on Tipu Sultan, the fearsome ruler of Mysore, and coming out on top. Back in the Anglo-Mysore Wars, Tipu was conquering left and right, but Coorg, he couldn't touch it. Couldn't. The Kodavas were masters of guerrilla warfare, using the rugged hills for stealthy ambushes. They'd lose ground, then swoop back in and reclaim it like it was nothing. Fun fact, Tipu built a fort in Sultan Bathari, Wayanad, thinking he could sneak into Coorg from there. Spoiler alert, it flopped. With the British by their side, the Kodavas sent Tipu running. There's this epic story you've got to hear. Tipu once captured over 1,000 Kodavas and locked them up in Srirangapatna, trying to convert them. 5 days later, Kodava warriors stormed the prison, smashed it open, and freed everyone. That's the kind of guts we're talking about. Their tactics were so fierce that even the British, who struggled against Tipu, were like, who are these guys? The Kodavas joined forces with the British, Marathas, and the Nizam of Hyderabad to take Tipu down for good, earning a reputation as fearless fighters. That alliance with the British was a turning point. The Brits were so impressed they created the Coorg Regiment, a special unit that fought everywhere, Burma, Iraq, even World War II. The Kodavas' mountain warfare skills and discipline made them unstoppable. The British also hooked them up with education, language training, and admin roles, totally transforming their small community. From just 1.5 lakh people, they produced absolute giants like General K.M. Cariappa, the first Indian commander-in-chief of the Indian Army, and General K.S. Timaya, another military rock star. These two weren't related, but they carried that same Kodava fire. Let's fast forward to 1947, when Pakistan's army, disguised as tribal militias, invaded Kashmir. They got scary close, Baramulla, just 56 kilometers from Srinagar. India was fresh off British rule, and Kashmir's ruler, Hari Singh, was begging for help. Enter General Cariappa, tapped as army chief. Nehru initially wanted a British general, but Indian officers and the Brits were like, Cariappa's the guy. He took charge and handed the Kashmir mission to General Timaya, who led the 19th Infantry Battalion, packed with Kodavas soldiers from the Coorg regiment. These guys were mountain warfare pros, and Timaya was out there leading from the front. In a bold move, he got Stuart tanks, light, British-made beasts, up the icy Zoyala Pass in Ladakh, a super strategic spot. Hauling tanks up those brutal slopes in freezing weather? Insane. But Timaya and his Kodava crew did it in 2 days. They launched a surprise attack, wiping out the enemy in just 3 or 4 hours. That victory saved the Kashmir Valley, and it was all thanks to the Kodavas' skills and Timaya's guts, with Cariappa calling the shots. The Kodavas aren't just fighters, they're their own bosses. They never had a king, seeing themselves as rulers, like zamindars with sprawling lands and thriving farms. They told Mysore's rulers, "Nah, we're good," and fought for their freedom. After independence, they stayed loyal to India. The British wanted to take the Coorg regiment to London, like the Gurkhas, but the Kodavas were like, "We serve India, period." They even asked the Indian government to disband the Coorg regiment, blending its soldiers into other units so they wouldn't be seen as a British pet project. That's next-level patriotism. From a tiny community of 1.5 lakh, over 20 Kodavas have climbed to ranks like Lieutenant General, Air Marshal, and Navy Admiral. Think about that. A township has a similar population, but how many cities churn out that many top military brass? In Coorg, you can't walk into a house without meeting someone in the Indian Armed Forces, or at least their cousin. They've shaped India's military with their courage and leadership. This is just the start of the Kodava saga. There's so much more to tell. From their love for nature to their warrior spirit, this community is one you've got to know. I'm already planning part 2, where we'll dig into their culture, traditions, and more epic stories.